Have you been battered up then? I mean, do you actually bear any physical wounds?
A few, yeah.
Yeah. Love to know what they are. What my chances are of finding out, I don't know at this moment.
When I was a kid, I used to ride freight trains. And in my hometown, a few other boys and myself, we robbed the company store. Took a freight train, and we got caught about 300 miles away, and I was shot off a boxcar. But it was
shot or shoved?
Shot.
Shot off a boxcar.
And I have that one. It's right here, that wound. And I have many others, of course, but they're not that much. Not that much to talk about.
Charles Bronson. You know him for his rugged charm and intense on-screen presence. But did you ever imagine that behind that tough exterior, he harbored some surprising fears? The man who faced down bad guys with a steely gaze was actually afraid of fire and germs. I know, it's hard to believe, right? I mean, this is the guy who could stare down a barrel of a gun without flinching. But fire and germs? Who would have thought? But wait, there's more. Did you know that Charles Bronson started smoking at the tender age of 9? Yeah, you heard me correctly, 9 years old. Now, that's a shocking revelation, considering how we usually perceive Hollywood stars. While Bronson was seen as rugged and uncompromising on screen, there are secrets that remained hidden for years, buried beneath his tough guy persona. But today, we're pulling back the curtain and delving into the real Charles Bronson. If you're as intrigued as I am, then you won't want to miss a single second of this video. Get ready to have your mind blown and your perception of Hollywood icons shattered as we deep dive into the life of Charles Bronson. Before we get into these secrets, let us first understand what made Charles Bronson the man he was. Born on November 3rd, 1921, in Ehrenfield, Pennsylvania, he hails from a bustling coal mining region nestled in the Allegheny Mountains, a stone's throw away from Johnstown. But what's truly fascinating is the colorful mosaic of his familial background. As the 11th of 15 children, Bronson was immersed in a Roman Catholic family with deep roots in Lithuanian heritage. His father, Walter Buczynski, had a compelling story himself. A Lipka Tatar from Draskeninkai in southern Lithuania, who ventured far from his homeland in search of a better life. Meanwhile, Bronson's mother, Mary, was a proud Pennsylvanian, born in Tamaqua, and also descended from Lithuanian ancestry. Growing up, Bronson's household was a melting pot of languages and cultures. Despite being in America, English wasn't the primary language spoken at home. Like many children in his community, he didn't utter a word of English during his formative years. In fact, his childhood echoed with the sounds of Lithuanian, Russian, and Greek. In an interview back in 1973, Bronson opened up about his childhood, sharing memories of a family life that was sometimes tricky. He talked about his dad, how his visits home would send the kids scrambling to hide. It was a quirky household, but one filled with love and surprises. When Charles was just a kid, tragedy struck. His dad passed away. At only 12, he had to step up and support his family by working in the coal mines. It was tough, dangerous work, but Charles faced it head on, earning just $1 for each ton of coal he dug up. Times were hard during the Great Depression. Money was tight and the family often went hungry. Charles remembered how they'd make do with whatever they had, even if it meant his little sister drinking warm tea instead of milk. But through it all, there were moments of triumph. Despite having to wear his sister's dress to school because they couldn't afford proper clothes, Charles became the first in his family to finish high school. Charles Bronson's journey took a courageous turn during World War II. After his stint in the mines, he enlisted in the United States Army Air Forces in 1943. Stepping up to the call of duty, Bronson served in the 760th Flexible Gunnery Training Squadron, honing his skills for the challenges that lay ahead. In 1945, he found himself soaring through the skies as a Boeing B-29 Superfortress aerial gunner with the 61st Bombardment Squadron, stationed in Guam under the 39th Bombardment Group. This group played a vital role in conducting combat missions against the Japanese home islands during the war. Bronson's dedication and bravery shone brightly as he flew an impressive 25 missions. His commitment to the cause didn't go unnoticed, and he was awarded the Purple Heart for wounds sustained in battle. After the war wrapped up, Bronson found himself doing a bunch of odd jobs. I'm talking about anything and everything just to make ends meet. But here's where the plot thickens. A theatrical group in Philadelphia caught wind of his talents and hired him to paint scenery. Little did they know they had a future Hollywood icon in their midst. But here's where it gets interesting. Bronson, covered in paint and probably thinking, hey, I might enjoy this acting thing, decides to give performing a shot. Fast forward to 1951 and he scores his first film role in You're in the Navy Now. And get this, he snagged the role because he was the only actor who could burp on demand. Yes, you heard that right. Burping skills got him his first break in Hollywood. At this time, he met his first love. Charles Bronson's first marriage was to Harriet Tendler, and their love story began in the early days of their acting careers in Philadelphia. They were both fledgling actors, navigating the challenging path of pursuing their dreams in the world of entertainment. Charlie Buczynski, as he was known back then, met Harriet Tendler in 1947 at a Philadelphia acting school. At the time, he was 26 and she was 18. Their love story unfolded against the backdrop of diverse backgrounds. She, the daughter of a successful Jewish dairy farmer, and he, a Catholic and former coal miner. Against the odds, the two decided to tie the knot 2 years later, with the grudging consent of Harriet's father. In the early days of their marriage, Tendler supported the couple financially while they both chased their acting dreams. It's a classic tale of resilience and determination. Their journey together started on a humble note. On their first date, Charles Bronson had only 4 cents in his pocket. Little did they know that this aspiring actor would go on to become one of the highest paid and most iconic figures in the country. New York City, post-war vibes, and Charles Bronson sharing an apartment with none other than Jack Klugman. Yep, the same Jack Klugman who later became a big deal in Hollywood. Can you imagine the conversations happening in that apartment? I bet it was like a real-life sitcom. And then, cue the Hollywood dream sequence. Bronson decides it's time to make the big move. He packs his bags, heads to Tinseltown, and enrolls in acting classes at Pasadena Playhouse. Hollywood, here comes Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson's journey in the world of cinema kicked off with his first recorded screen performance in the 1951 film You're in the Navy Now. It might have been the uncredited role of a sailor, but little did the audience know that this was just the beginning of a cinematic legacy. Following this debut, Bronson took on various minor roles in films like Pat and Mike, Miss Sadie Thompson, and House of Wax. In the early 1950s, Charles Bronson ventured into the realm of television, making his small-screen debut in Rogers' show Knockout in 1952. Shortly thereafter, he also appeared in an episode of The Red Skelton Show, showcasing his versatility as an actor beyond the silver screen. However, it was Bronson's standout performance as the Modoc warrior Captain Jack in the film Drumbeat that truly brought his acting abilities into the limelight. In 1954, the Cold War is in full swing, and there's this rising Hollywood star named Charles Bronson. But here's the kicker, he's got a Russian-sounding last name, and in the middle of all the US-Soviet tension and communist investigations, someone gives him the wise advice to change it up. Now, what does Bronson do? Does he go for a complex makeover or stick to his roots? Well, he takes the road less traveled. Instead of ditching his identity altogether, he decides to get creative. And how does he do that? By renaming himself after a street right here in Hollywood, Bronson Avenue. During the 1950s and 60s, Charles Bronson continued to carve out a niche for himself in the television landscape, making multiple appearances in various shows. Bronson graced the small screen in shows like Biff Baker USA, Sheriff of Cochise, U.S. Marshal, Hey Janine, and So Died Rio Bachinska, There Was an Old Woman, and more. In 1958, Charles Bronson stepped into the spotlight with his first lead role in Roger Corman's film Machine Gun Kelly. This marked a significant moment in his career as he transitioned from supporting roles to the forefront of the action. Not content with just conquering the big screen, Bronson simultaneously made waves on television. The same year he took on Machine Gun Kelly, he also snagged the lead role as Mike Kovac in the detective series Man with a Camera, which ran until 1960. The dawn of 1960 saw Charles Bronson making his presence felt on the small screen with appearances in teleseries like Riverboat and The Islanders. However, it was his role as Bernardo O'Reilly in John Sturges' film The Magnificent Seven that truly catapulted him into the spotlight, earning him his first taste of genuine fame. The movie not only showcased his acting prowess, but also established him as an upcoming star in Hollywood. Building on this success, 3 years later, Bronson found himself once again under the direction of John Sturges in the epic film The Great Escape. Set in the post-World War II era, the movie featured Bronson in the role of Danny Walensky, a claustrophobic Polish refugee. This big-budget production turned out to be a major box office hit, further solidifying Bronson's position in the industry. Charles Bronson's personal life was intertwined with his professional one, particularly through his marriage to English actress Jill Ireland. The two were married from October 5, 1968 until her passing in 1990. Their love story began in 1962, when Jill was still married to Scottish actor David McCallum. It's reported that Bronson, who had shared the screen with McCallum in The Great Escape, confidently told him, "I'm going to marry your wife." Charles Bronson's reputation as a tough guy not only secured him main roles in Hollywood, but also paved the way for international success. In films like The Dirty Dozen, where he starred alongside Lee Marvin and Ernest Borgnine, Bronson's tough and commanding presence stood out. Driven by his acting talent and a desire for bigger opportunities, Bronson made a strategic move to Europe. This shift opened up a new chapter in his career, leading to prominent roles in European films. Notable among them were appearances in classics like Once Upon a Time in the West, Guns for San Sebastian, and Cold Sweat. His versatility as an actor shone through, transcending borders and captivating audiences on a global scale. Bronson's journey also took him to the French film industry, where he was cast in Rider on the Rain. It's a testament to his international appeal and the recognition of his acting prowess beyond Hollywood. As Charles Bronson's fame reached new heights, fueled by his success in European films, the American audience eagerly anticipated his return to Hollywood. In the 1970s, he made the decision to come back to the US, and from that point onward, there was no looking back. His subsequent releases in Hollywood proved to be consistently successful, solidifying his status as a leading star. Films like The Valachi Papers, The Mechanic, and The Stone Killer added to his impressive repertoire. The pinnacle of Bronson's Hollywood career came in 1974, with the release of his magnum opus, Death Wish. In this film, he portrayed the character of a New York architect named Paul Kersey. The impact of Death Wish was nothing short of phenomenal. A massive success that not only resonated with audiences, but also spawned the release of 4 sequels over the next 2 decades. Each sequel had Bronson reprising his iconic role of Kersey, solidifying the franchise's place in cinematic history. Critics were divided over the themes of vigilantism depicted in Death Wish, and the film's violence sparked considerable debate. However, as is often the case, the controversy provided the movie with free publicity. The public's curiosity and the discussions about the film elevated its status in the cultural zeitgeist. A similar scenario unfolded with Joker. Despite facing criticism for its depiction of violence and its potential impact on viewers, the controversy surrounding the film made it a must-see cultural event. 1974 was a remarkable year for Charles Bronson, not just with the massive success of Death Wish, but also another impactful release, Mr. Majestic. In this film, Bronson portrayed the character of an army veteran and farmer engaged in a battle with local gangsters. The movie resonated with audiences and proved to be a major hit at the box office, further solidifying Bronson's position as a Hollywood heavyweight. The following year, 1975, saw Bronson take on a role in Walter Hill's Hard Times. Set in the Depression era, the film earned acclaim from both critics and audiences. This gritty tale showcased Bronson's acting prowess and cemented his status as an action hero. Many of his fans considered Hard Times to be his best role to date, highlighting the enduring impact of this particular film in Bronson's illustrious career. In the wake of back-to-back successful films, Charles Bronson's career ventured into a series of films with varying degrees of success in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Films like Break Heart Pass, From Noon Till 3, and Telephone achieved moderate success at the box office. However, the subsequent decade saw Bronson take on increasingly violent roles in films, such as 10 to Midnight, The Evil Men That Do, Assassination, and Kinjite Forbidden Subjects. These films showcased a darker and more intense side of Bronson's on-screen persona. Towards the end of the 1980s, some notable works emerged. His portrayal of United Mine Workers leader Jock Jablonski in the TV movie Act of Vengeance displayed his versatility. Additionally, his impressive performance in The Indian Runner demonstrated his ability to excel in more dramatic roles. One notable departure from the violent roles was the film Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus, where Bronson took on the role of a compassionate newspaper editor, showcasing a different facet of his acting range. The latter part of Charles Bronson's life was marked by a profound loss. On May 18, 1990, at the age of 54, Jill Ireland passed away from a long and challenging battle with breast cancer. Her death occurred at their home in Malibu, California. This loss deeply affected Bronson, marking the end of a significant chapter in his personal and professional life. In 1991, a television film titled Reason for Living: The Jill Ireland Story depicted their life together, with Bronson being portrayed by actor Lance Henriksen. Charles Bronson's prolific acting career saw its last starring role in a theatrically released film, Death Wish 5, The Face of Death in 1994. Following this, from 1995 to 1999, Bronson took on a trilogy of TV movies portraying Commissioner Paul Fane, the patriarch of a family of law enforcers. The trilogy comprised Family of Cops in 1995, Breach of Faith, A Family of Cops 2 in 97, and Family of Cops 3 in 99. However, as time went on, Bronson's health began to deteriorate. His later years were marked by health challenges, leading him to retire from acting after undergoing hip replacement surgery in August 1998. Over the course of a remarkable career that spanned more than 5 decades, he graced the screen in over 90 films. That's not just a filmography, it's a cinematic journey that left an indelible mark on Hollywood. In December 1998, he entered into his third marriage, this time with Kim Weeks. Kim, an actress and former employee of Dove Audio, had played a role in recording Jill Ireland's audiobooks. The couple remained married for 5 years until Charles Bronson's death in 2003. Artistic image and performance style. Film critic Stephen Hunter had some pretty awesome things to say about him, and it's like he captured the very essence of what made Bronson, well, Bronson. According to Hunter, Bronson was like the living embodiment of male energy. Tough, capable, and just oozing strength. And here's the cool part. He had this vibe that made you question if he was an ugly handsome man or a handsome ugly man. It's like the mystery just added to his charm, making you want to dive deeper into the Bronson enigma. Hunter pointed out that while Bronson might not have snagged an Oscar for Best Actor, he sure knew how to quietly take over a scene. Imagine that, dominating without even saying much. A true master of the subtle art of scene stealing. And here's the thing about Bronson. He was the guy who never complained, never quit, and never skulked away. He simmered with a bit of class resentment, sure, but he got the job done without expecting a ton of thanks. It's like he had this unspoken nobility that just added to his legendary status. Charles Bronson, in a candid conversation with critic Roger Ebert back in 1974, gave us a glimpse into his perspective on his own career. He dropped a line that was as straightforward as it gets. "I'm only a product, like a cake of soap, to be sold as well as possible." Imagine the Hollywood tough guy comparing himself to a bar of soap. No frills, just a straightforward product ready for the market. Bronson shed light on the action-packed films he was cranking out at the time. According to him, there wasn't a whole lot of room for lengthy dialogue or deep character exploration. It's like he saw himself as more than just an actor. He was supplying a presence, a force that needed to be established right from the get-go. In his own words, there are never any long dialogue scenes to establish a character. He has to be completely established at the beginning of the movie and ready to work. It's a no-nonsense approach to the business, where the character has to hit the ground running, no time for warm-ups or extended character development. According to director Michael Winner, Bronson possessed a quality that the camera just couldn't resist. It's like the motion picture camera had a crush on him. Winner highlighted Bronson's unique strength on screen, whether he was standing still or taking on a completely passive role. "He has great strength on the screen," Winner remarked, emphasizing that even in moments of stillness, Bronson commands attention. It's the kind of presence that goes beyond words, a magnetic force that draws you in. Winner touched on the depth and mystery that Bronson brought to his roles, creating an atmosphere where you always felt like something was about to happen. In essence, Bronson had that cinematic X factor, a charisma that transcended traditional acting techniques. It's the kind of thing you can't just put your finger on, but you know it when you see it. Character and personality. Charles Bronson's journey to fame was fraught with struggles and scars from his early years. A 1973 newspaper profile painted a picture of a man deeply affected by his past, so much so that he couldn't even bring himself to watch his own films. Can you imagine? The guy who lit up the screen couldn't bear to see himself in action. Described as still suspicious, holding grudges, and avoiding interviews like the plague, Bronson seemed to be carrying the weight of his past like a heavy burden. Despite his towering success, he remained somewhat incredulous, unable to fully grasp the magnitude of his achievements. It's like he was still pinching himself, wondering if it was all just a dream. And let's talk about recognition, or the lack thereof. Bronson was embittered by the fact that it took so darn long for the US to give him the recognition he deserved. After clawing his way to the top, he wasn't about to forget those who had snubbed him in the past. When a noted director who had turned him down before came knocking, Bronson shut the door in their face faster than you can say action. In 1974, the esteemed critic Roger Ebert gave us a peek into Bronson's world. And let me tell you, it's intense. According to Ebert, Bronson wasn't one to spill the beans voluntarily. There are no behind-the-scenes insights, no elaborate discussions, and definitely no deep dives into the theories behind his films. It's like he kept all his cards close to his chest, adding a layer of mystery to the man behind those iconic roles. But here's where it gets a bit wild. Ebert revealed that Bronson wasn't shy about expressing his discontent. In fact, he threatened to get Time magazine critic Jay Cox. Why? Well, it all went down after Cox wrote a negative review that Bronson took as a personal attack. It seems like Bronson didn't take criticism lightly and was ready to defend his turf, even if it meant taking things outside the realm of cinema. What's even more intriguing is Ebert's observation that, unlike other actors who projected violence solely on screen, Bronson gave off a certain air of intensity in person. It's like that line between the character he played and the man himself blurred, creating an aura that was, let's say, a bit more than your usual Hollywood tough guy. Charles Bronson, despite his success in Hollywood, maintained a strong commitment to helping others. Beyond the glitz and glamour of the film industry, he extended a hand to those in need through generous acts of philanthropy. Bronson's charitable endeavors included donations to various causes and organizations. However, one particular incident showcased his selflessness in a remarkable way. When he inherited a $300,000 estate from a fan named Audrey Knauer, whom he had never met, Bronson chose to pay it forward in a truly heartwarming manner. Instead of keeping the inheritance for himself, he decided to honor Knauer's memory by donating the entire sum to her favorite charity, the Louisville Public Library. Charles Bronson's earnings and assets. Throughout his illustrious career, Bronson didn't just settle for being a talented actor, he was building an empire. His substantial income didn't solely come from those iconic movie roles where he dominated the screen. No, Bronson was diversifying his financial portfolio, making savvy investment moves, and striking lucrative business deals that would make Wall Street raise an eyebrow. Reports revealed that Bronson earned a whopping $1 million for several of his films, including his iconic role in Death Wish and hits like The Stone Killer and Chino. Now that's some serious Hollywood gold right there. But here's where Bronson took it up a notch. He was a master negotiator. His shrewd skills in the boardroom weren't just reserved for his tough guy roles, they translated into lucrative movie deals. How? Well, he secured large gross points, meaning he got a cut of the film's box office earnings. It's like he was playing the Hollywood money game at the highest level. And it didn't stop there. Bronson wasn't just stashing away cash from movies, he was also dipping his toes into the real estate game. Picture this, an $8 million mansion in the ritzy neighborhood of Bel Air. That's not just a house, it's a Hollywood castle fit for a legend. In addition to his lavish $8 million mansion in Bel Air, he also owned a breathtaking $5 million beach house in Vermont. Talk about living the Hollywood dream in style. This coastal retreat wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary where Bronson could escape the hustle and bustle of Hollywood and immerse himself in the serenity and natural beauty of the ocean. The property was a haven with spacious living areas, private beach access, and top-of-the-line amenities, a true paradise for a Hollywood legend seeking some peace and quiet. At the time of his passing, this Hollywood icon had amassed a net worth of a staggering $65 million. Let that sink in. $65 million, making him one of the wealthiest actors to ever grace the industry. His financial success wasn't just a stroke of luck. It was a testament to his talent, hard work, and of course those strategic financial decisions we've been talking about. Whether it was negotiating those hefty movie deals with gross points or making savvy investments in real estate, Bronson knew how to turn his Hollywood hustle into a fortune. Death. Charles Bronson, the Hollywood legend with a career spanning decades, bid farewell to the world at the age of 81 on August 30, 2003, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. While pneumonia and Alzheimer's disease have been mentioned in discussions about his passing, a closer look at his death certificates reveals a different picture. The official document cites respiratory failure as the primary cause of death, accompanied by metastatic lung cancer. As secondary factors, it lists chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and congestive cardiomyopathy. It's a reminder that even before his departure, Bronson's life was marked by a complex tapestry of health challenges. In keeping with his wishes, Charles Bronson finds his final resting place at Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont. It's a serene spot where the Hollywood icon, known for his tough exterior on screen, found peace beneath the Vermont skies.